Time now for Down to the Wire here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers, and we are set for another week of the NFL, week 3 this evening from blustery Cleveland. I guess we can call it that. The Browns and the Steelers, that total is dropping. Browns are still favored, and Pittsburgh so far at 1-1, Cleveland at 1-1. And the Browns off their meltdown against the Jets last week. The Steelers, they couldn't really score against the Patriots. They're trying to get their offense back, trying to get it somewhat back in order. So we'll talk about that game with Patrick Everson coming up in just a little bit. Patrick's going to be at the Cosmo in Las Vegas on the Strip, and he's going to tell us where all the money is going. It feels like it's going to be, spoiler alert, probably a lot on Pittsburgh. All the numbers favoring the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, what he's done against Cleveland in his career. Kevin Stefanski has not been great as a favorite. So we'll see if that all rings true coming up in a little while. But Patrick's going to join us in about 15 minutes or so from the Cosmo and also get his thoughts on some of the other games this weekend. Also want to get his thoughts on that Chiefs-Colts movement as well, that game in Indianapolis on Sunday. And also, Joe Osborne is going to join us coming up in just a moment. Chasing That Paper, you could find it every day, Monday through Friday, every weekday, I should say, Monday through Friday on Vegas Insider, 11 a.m. Eastern. And Joe and I, we go back and forth with our contest picks. And both of us, unfortunately, are 5-5 through the first 10 picks. And there's a guy in the Westgate that's 10-0 already. So you're going to have some guys who are going to be 10-0, 9-1. Some people, I should say, guys or girls, can be 10-0, 9-1. So you got a little bit of work to do, but try to bounce back. So we'll have those picks coming up in just a few moments. First, though, my Major League Baseball best bet of the night. We are 6-1 on these bets, the last 7 in Major League Baseball. We lost with the Brewers on Monday. We won with the Royals on Tuesday. Joe Madden was in last night, so we didn't have a pick. But tonight we are back. And we go to the late night game. I'm going to take the LA Dodgers on the run line against Arizona. And the Dodgers have lost the last 2 to the Diamondbacks in the series. Zach Gallen, Arizona's best pitcher, goes tonight for the D-backs. Julio Urias for LA. But here's an interesting number. The Dodgers have won 19 starts made by Julio Urias. In 18 of them, they've won by 2 runs or more. And Urias lost earlier this year to Gallen in Phoenix. It was a 3-1 win by the Diamondbacks earlier this season. And Gallen coming off a struggle of a start against San Diego. He went through that 5 or 6 start stretch of not allowing a run. And the last 2 starts, he's been, let's say, roughed up. He's given up a few runs. When you go 6 straight without giving up a run, all of a sudden it feels like you're roughed up and you give up 3 runs. But I'm going to go with the Dodgers here to bounce back and basically at an even money to win by 2 runs or more. We know how powerful that offense is for the Dodgers. So let's go with the Dodgers run line as our best bet tonight in Major League Baseball. Now, if you want more picks, you can go to vegasinsider.com and check out our handicapper heat check. You can look at all of our handicappers at Vegas Insider. And tonight we're going to focus on Steven Nover. And Steven has been with Vegas Insider for a very long time. And taking a look at his record of late, you see it there on the screen. 6-0 in the NFL last Sunday, 12-1 his last 13 in the National Football League. You find Steven on Twitter at StevenNover1. Also, Steven is the NFL money leader, 21-7 record this season after an 8-0 week 2. So he's been terrific in the NFL. Don't miss his Thursday night football best bet by visiting vegasinsider.com/picks or clicking Steven's promo on the Vegas Insider homepage. And that's your handicapper heat check. I want you to stay hot, bettors. That's what you need to do. So with all that being said, our contest picks, which we do every week here on Down to the Wire. I am in the Westgate Super Contest. Joe Osborne, host of Chasing That Paper, 11 a.m. Eastern on Vegas Insider, Monday through Friday. He is in the Circa Millions. And Joe, the first pick, it's interesting. You're going to go against the team that you love. So what's your first pick?
I hate to do it, man, but I got to go against the helmet in the back there, my Miami Dolphins. I think it's a little bit of a letdown spot for them here. Unfortunately, the Bills shot out of a cannon to open the season. You can't ignore the recent history in this matchup. The Bills have won 7 straight games over Miami, 6 of which coming by double digits. And, you hear a little bit about this narrative of playing in the humidity down in Miami. Had the Bills do week 2 Miami last season. They won 35-0. Now, I know it's a completely different staff, a much different team. Tua got injured in that game, but it was 35-0, Kevin. So if you want to dig into the stats too, you're going to find a lot of things to support Buffalo. So, yeah, I hope Miami can be competitive, but I think Buffalo wins by at least a touchdown here.
Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I mean, the Bills have won 7 straight against the Dolphins going back, and 6 of those wins coming by double digits. Actually, what's so funny is the one that came by less than 10 points was a 3-point win in 2020, in which Buffalo led by 11, and the Dolphins scored a late touchdown and got the 2 to lose by 3. So we'll see if Buffalo keeps that streak alive. All right, for my first pick in the contest this week, I'm going to take the Chicago Bears. The Bears, minus 2.5 against the Houston Texans. Now, 2 of my picks this week, what's funny is out of 3 of them go with this narrative. 2 I'm going for and 1 I'm going against. I'll explain in a second. All right. So the Bears, let's start with them. They beat San Francisco in week 1. They are, 6-point underdogs there. Sloppy games, sloppy conditions. They come back from a 10-0 deficit to beat the 49ers. Last week, they got boat raced by Green Bay. Okay, that's not a shocker considering the Packers lost the opener to Minnesota. Everyone thought Green Bay would come back. They did. Not shocking at all. Green Bay's own Chicago. Houston, meanwhile, they tie Indianapolis in week 1, up 20-3, and the Colts come back, tie it. Colts got the money, or the Texans rather got the money, but Houston ends up with a tie. So it's kind of like a loss, but not a loss, but still it felt like a loss. Last week, they actually competed well with Denver. They hung with them, but couldn't score a touchdown. Lost 16-9 to the Broncos. So now the Texans go to Chicago as a short dog. I don't like taking these bad teams as such short dogs off of close losses. So the Chicago Bears, I'm going to back them as my first pick coming up in the contest. Now, for the second pick, Joe and I are on opposite sides here with the New Orleans-Carolina game. This is actually the second straight week that Joe is going to back New Orleans.
So I like the Saints quite a bit in that week 2 matchup with the Bucs, and they hung around in that game, and then the wheels fell off in the fourth quarter there. But their defense is still looking pretty damn good, Kevin, and I'm not going to back off them based on the result of one game versus a pretty solid defense there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I also can't ignore this trend for the Panthers. They're 2-14 against the spread in their last 16 games, an absolute money pit. So I'll keep fading them at the short number. I think the Saints are the better team here, so I like them to win by at least a field goal.
What's so funny about that one too, Joe, is that I'm on the other side of that. I like Carolina, and I just said with the Houston-Chicago game that I like to go against bad teams after as short dogs after these close losses, and now I'm taking Carolina. All right, here's my reasoning with that. The Carolina Panthers, when you look at what they've done the first 2 weeks, short favorites in both their games. They closed as a favorite against the Giants. Also, they were a favorite against Cleveland. They led late against Cleveland, lost. They led in the fourth quarter against the Giants, lost. I think they get back here. They beat New Orleans last year as a short home dog. They actually annihilated them in week 2 after New Orleans beat Green Bay in week 1, and after the game got moved to Jacksonville. They went to Carolina the next week, and the Panthers just destroyed them. But I think the Panthers here, in spite of 9 consecutive ATS losses dating back to last year, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. Pray for me on this one as my second pick. Now, the third pick, and Joe, going to go with the Lions.
Kevin, I like the Detroit Lions +6 at the Vikings. I initially thought I would be leaning Vikings in this one, but the more I dug into it, the more I started to like Detroit here. I think that they can keep this one close. These teams played 2 games against each other last season. The Vikings won one of those games by 2 points. The Lions won one of those games by 2 points. And it might be a backdoor cover that they need to get the job done here, but this offense has been zipping up and down the field here through the first 2 games of the season. And, of course, there's some trust issues here with the Vikings. I was one of these people who liked them quite a bit coming into the season, and they could bounce back. I mean, that was a very embarrassing loss on Monday Night Football there in week 2. A long way for them to go, but I think the Lions can keep this one close.
With that Detroit game, too, I know Kirk Cousins is terrible in prime time. We saw what happened against Philadelphia. This is a day game against Detroit, a team they should beat. But I just can't trust that Viking team. And I'm not saying that I'm going to back the Lions in that game. I just can't trust Minnesota. So I see where Joe is coming from on that one. I just can't back the Vikings here. I just can't do it. So the only road team I'm taking this week in the contest is the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, I'm taking them at Tennessee. I know you're not supposed to take teams that are coming off of a bad loss like the Raiders had last week against Arizona, up 20-0. Cardinals come back. They get the touchdown from Kyler Murray. They get the 2 to go to overtime, and then Arizona gets the fumble return for the touchdown in overtime to beat the Raiders. And Las Vegas 0-2 in the Josh McDaniels era. Titans also 0-2 after they were routed by the Bills on Monday night. But there are better weapons on this Raider team. Just waiting for Devontae Adams to bust out, Derek Carr, than what Tennessee has. And even with Derrick Henry being the best running back in the league, or a top 2 running back, depending on which way you look at it, I think that the Raiders here with the line movement, I'm going to take LA. I don't know what decade I'm living in. The Las Vegas Raiders here to bounce back as my 3rd selection. So we'll stay in the AFC West as far as teams. And Joe, the Kansas City Chiefs have been a popular pick this week. They're taking on the Indianapolis Colts.
Made a lot of money back in this team as a square bet before. It's the Kansas City Chiefs -5.5 coming into this game versus the Colts. 3 extra days to prepare. Hey, Kansas City still has a lot to work on. They weren't, spectacular by any means in that game versus the Chargers. They only scored 20 points on offense. Of course, they had that pick 6 to kind of seal the game. But they're taking on a Colts team. They've come out as flat as a team possibly can to open the season. They need to scratch and claw to get a tie in Houston against the Texans. Then you get shut out versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Every team has injuries, Kevin. You can't blame Michael Pittman being injured as the reason as to why you got shut out by Jacksonville. So, yeah, I like the Chiefs here. There's a couple good areas defensively through 2 games for them. Pretty good coverage, pretty good at creating pressure on the quarterback. I think they could be a bit of a headache here for Matt Ryan. Just too difficult of a spot for the Colts to bounce back. They're not out of it by any means playing in that division. But give me Kansas City to roll.
Yeah, I think that, look, we're going to hear from Patrick Everson in a little bit about this Chiefs-Colts game. This Chiefs team has looked very good against the Cardinals. They struggled a bit at first against the Chargers, and Mahomes let them back. But on the Colts side, when are they going to get their stuff together? They're coming off the tie against Houston, against Jacksonville. They were shut out. So 0-2 against the spread, but they're a home dog. They're an underdog for the first time this season, and the Colts were a good dog last year. So let's see how Frank Reich's team responds, and also Matt Ryan, just is he shot? That's the big question. So Joe's 4th pick is the Chiefs. He has the Bills, Saints, Lions, and Chiefs so far. I have the Bears, Panthers, Raiders, and my 4th pick, the Seattle Seahawks. That's right. And now I'm going back to my original theory. I said there were 3 games under this theory. 1 I won against, 2 I'm taking 4. I'm fading the Falcons here. Atlanta coming off the meltdown against New Orleans in week 1. Then in week 2, they were down 28-3 to the Rams, came all the way back. They had a shot to take the lead late. Marcus Mariota had the ball for the Falcons at the 20-25-yard line, threw an interception in the end zone, and that squandered any hopes that the Falcons had to beat the Rams. But I just think now another West Coast game for Atlanta, going to Seattle, tough environment. The Seahawks, yes, they won their Super Bowl in week 1 against against Russell Wilson and the Broncos. But when you look at their game last week against San Francisco, they really did not perform well. No offensive touchdowns. Their only touchdown coming on a blocked field goal taken back for a score. I think here that Seattle rebounds. This number has dropped. It's not a great number either. I think Seattle's laying 1 right now, and I saw Pick'em as well. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks here as my 4th selection for the contest this week. And now Joe Osborne, his fifth and final selection, going to defending champs.
We're going to bring it home with the Rams -3.5 in Arizona versus the Cardinals. So per Evan Abrams at the Action Network, Sean McVay has faced the Arizona Cardinals 11 times since becoming head coach of the Rams. And won straight up, 9-1-1 against the spread. I also think maybe we're getting a point or two of value here, Kevin. What would this number be had the Cardinals not come back against the Raiders, made that unlikely comeback for the win? What would this line be had the Rams not let the Falcons back in the back door? They dominated for most of this game. So a little bit of value here. I think that the Rams will get their first wire-to-wire dominant win of the season, like they did when these teams played in the playoffs last year. I don't know if it will quite be that bad, but I was very down on the Cardinals coming into the season. I predicted that this is the season where the wheels will fall off for them. They struggle offensively without DeAndre Hopkins, so I think they're going to have a tough time in this game. I think maybe getting on the road, too, is a good thing for this Rams team that's played some uninspiring football out of the gate here.
And there's Joe Osborne with his 5 picks in the LA Rams as his final selection as they take on Arizona. And we'll see what Arizona's got left in the tank after beating Las Vegas, and also the McVay stat. He's owned the Cardinals. Last year, the Rams were blown out at home by Arizona. Rams won at Arizona later in the year, and then in the playoffs, that ugly Kyler Murray game, that Monday night game, which the Rams destroyed the Cardinals. So LA definitely has a lot of confidence against Arizona, but both teams coming off wins this past week after losing their openers. So it should be an interesting one. So again, Joe, the Bills, the Saints, Lions, Chiefs, and Rams as his 5 picks this week. And for my 5th and final pick, I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos on Sunday night. Pray for me, please, as they face the San Francisco 49ers in this Super Bowl 24 rematch. The 49ers blew out the Broncos at the Superdome. Remember that? But now things have changed a little bit over the years. All right, so I like Denver. Why? Because they didn't cover the first 2 weeks. Heavy favorites against Seattle as well as against Houston last week. They somehow snuck by the Texans to win, but they didn't cover. San Francisco has Jimmy Garoppolo back at quarterback. Trey Lance got hurt early, so it's the Garoppolo show moving forward. And they beat Seattle. They lost to Chicago week 1. We know Garoppolo, probably a better choice than Trey Lance. That number is flipped in San Francisco's favor, but I just think now getting some points with the Broncos, everyone's so down on Buddy Hackett and Russell Wilson that I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos as my 5th pick. So Bears, Panthers, Raiders, Seahawks, and Broncos are my 5 picks. Both Joe and I 5-5 in the contest so far. So we're going to try to get it going, get it ramped up to get to maybe 10-5, 5-0 week, and we can get back into business. All right. Now for my Major League Baseball strikeout prop of the night. Let's do that right now. Mitch Keller of the Pirates. They're playing in about 15 minutes or so. Let's sneak this one in. Mitch Keller, we're going to go over a strikeout total of 5.5. And for Keller, he has actually been pretty good in the strikeout department. 4-1 to the over his last 5 starts, and also 6 strikeouts against the Mets, 6 strikeouts against the Cardinals in his last 2 outings. And seeing a pretty high total at 5.5. But the Cubs, they had problems with strikeouts in their last series against the Marlins. So let's go with Mitch Keller over strikeouts tonight, 5.5 against the Chicago Cubs. And that game starting up in a little bit at PNC Park. And before we get to Patrick Everson, he's at the Cosmo. I want to tell you about BetMGM. We love BetMGM here at Vegas Insider. And a lot of good things going on right now at BetMGM. Kick off the new pro football season with the king of sportsbooks. Sign up with BetMGM using the bonus code VIBONUS, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. That's VIBONUS, all one word, no spaces. And your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Only available in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, D.C., West Virginia, Wyoming, and Ontario. Must be 21 years or older to wager. That is BetMGM. All right, let's head out to the Cosmo in Las Vegas. And our man, Patrick Everson, he is on the scene there. And Patrick, you remember Super Bowl 24, the Broncos and the Niners?
Yeah, just a little.
Was that a sore question to ask?
that was a sore question to ask. But what I really remember more fondly is 2 weeks earlier. I think it was 2 weeks earlier. I don't remember if they had the bye back then, but I was at the AFC Championship game that year, and it was phenomenal. And then 2 weeks later, it was just like, I believe, I'm not positive, but I think that was the same night that The Simpsons debuted afterward. And that was certainly way, way better than anything that the Broncos put up on the field that day. It was just an awful, awful experience. And honestly, Kevin, what it continued was a trend that began in Super Bowl 12. Each time the Broncos would go to the Super Bowl, they would lose by more points.
They did.
And that was the worst.
You had the Washington Super Bowl.
Yep.
No, sorry, the Washington Super Bowl was the year before, and then they played. You're right, because that was the Doug Williams 35 points in the second, and the next year, or 2 years later, was the Niners. So at least Elway got the year before later.
Yeah, and the year before the Redskins, or the Commanders, Washington, what have you.
Right.
The year before that, they lost to Dallas 27-10, Super Bowl 12 when I was in third grade. They lost, I believe, 38-20 to the Giants, 42-10 to Washington, and then 55-10 to beat all to the San Francisco 49ers. So yeah, I try to blank that one out.
Well, we're going to talk about that game coming up in a little bit. I want your thoughts on a few of these line moves. But first, let's start with the Thursday night game. Steelers and the Browns tonight in Cleveland. And the weather's not great. It's windy. It's cold. I mean, for now, I guess for the early fall. But the Browns favorite, I feel like a lot of people on the Steelers on this one. What have you heard? I'm assuming the books need the Browns tonight, but what have you heard with this?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag, and I'm here inside the Cosmo BetMGM book. I'll have a Vegas Insider video action report from here in just a little while going up on Vegas Insider's Twitter feed. And what Jason Scott with BetMGM just told me just moments before I came on with you, and I'll relay more of this information in the video, is they actually, at BetMGM, kind of need the Browns spread and money line. They need them to at least win and would like them to cover as well. But I don't think that's the case everywhere, and I think you're right. Pittsburgh is a dog that people are interested in. Just a little bit ago, I was going back and forth with Motoy Pearson at WinBet, and he said, they're seeing really good money line play. It's two-way action on the spread, and on the money line, tickets are split, literally almost dead even, but about 2-to-1 money on the Steelers money line. So people coming in on the money line, and he said Steelers money line is a very popular choice, but he also said we don't mind any of it. So they don't really necessarily mind seeing the Steelers money line play coming in at WinBet. You can infer from that what you will.
So what is the issue why people are so down on the Browns? Is this just because of what happened to the Jets last week, or also this is just Steelers being a public team?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. The Steelers, even, I don't think there are obviously high expectations for the Steelers this year. Look at their Super Bowl odds, their playoff odds, and so forth. And, no more Roethlisberger and so on. So, but that said, they've still got a very loyal following, both as fans and as bettors. They have a loyal following. And I do think there's certainly a hangover from the Browns blowing that game to the Jets in the final couple of minutes last week, just almost inexplicably losing that game. So I think it's probably a combination of those two. Maybe the weather plays into it a little bit. They think it'll be if the weather's a little mucky, then maybe the game's a little mucky and therefore it's close, which would seem to work toward the Steelers.
What about from a total perspective, Patrick? I know a lot of people are looking at the under before they knew about the weather, and this number has dropped. They had two unders last year. What have you heard about this with the total split?
Are you still seeing, just because you can probably see better than I can, it's up behind me, I know that, but 38? Are we still seeing like 38 and a half?
Let me see where I'm at
38,
now.
over under 38's
across the board. Yeah.
Right, and this was a game that opened pretty low out of the gate, 40 and a half, one of the lowest opening totals of the regular season so far. There's another one that's pretty low this week as well. And I mean, look, it's two-way action at WinBet. Again, going back and forth with Motoy Pearson. A modest majority of bets on the over, which isn't a surprise in a standalone game, but a modest majority of tickets on the under. And then Jason Scott at BetMGM, and again, I'll relay this in a video in a little bit here on Vegas Insider's Twitter feed, but he said it definitely went down, and what they kind of don't need is that middle area is, and it's only a small area, but that middle area is a tough spot for BetMGM. So they're kind of rooting against like 38 and 39 or 39 and 5. Actually, I think it's 39 and 40. They need to kind of stay off those two numbers there. So there's certainly some play for the under, and the weather is going to come into play now as well. But it's such a small number. You only need one or two interesting things to happen. I think we talked about this a little bit on Monday, Kevin. And all it takes is, one or two fluky things to happen. And sometimes weather even leads to those fluky things. And all of a sudden, 38 isn't so far-fetched.
I agree with that. Sometimes people overrate the weather a little bit. That if you had two higher scoring teams, or at least the Steelers hadn't struggled as much, people would be all right with maybe taking it over. But they've seen Pittsburgh struggles, Trubisky struggled. Trubisky's played better so far, or he has the ability to play better, maybe get some more points. Now, I have a couple. I want your thoughts, Patrick, on some of these games on Sunday. First, this Chiefs-Colts game, in which Kansas City, that line jumped up to 7, it's dropped down to 5.5. Colts are not very popular right now, but it seems like the sharp side. What are you hearing with this Chiefs-Colts game?
Yes, I'm definitely hearing the Colts are the sharp side. Rex Byers, longtime odds maker. He's been everywhere, but he's been in a couple of good spots here in Vegas, and now he's head of wagering with Play Up USA, one of the newer operations here in the United States. And he told me Wednesday night that there are like a really sharp bunch that were on the Colts at +6.5 and +6, and that's why the number's at 5.5. However, he did note his book may be in an unusual position where they actually need the Chiefs, but he noted we're going to be in the minority there. Most books are going to need the Colts in this game, and I don't think that'll be a surprise after what we've seen out of the Colts in these first couple of weeks. Getting shut out at Jacksonville. They aren't what people thought they might be. I think there were some people keen on the Colts coming into the season. I was one of them. Took a little Chili's money on the Super Bowl on the Colts because I thought it looked like a nice price, and I felt like maybe they would be getting it together. But yeah, I think it's the Chiefs are going to be the public team. They're out of the gate very, very strong. I'm just going through the odds and action report that we have up on Vegas Insider, and midweek early tickets and money were. Let me get down to the Chiefs game here. I apologize. About midweek, early tickets and money were pretty heavy to the Chiefs, and that was from DraftKings, pretty heavy to the Chiefs. Not a whole lot of money in the pot, I would guess, as there usually isn't by midweek. The money comes in on the weekend. But early indicators, heavy tickets and money to Kansas City. No surprise there.
Now, the Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon kickoff, Tampa Bay and Green Bay.
You
And
bet.
no Mike Evans. He's suspended. The Bucs have some injuries. That line has dropped. Obviously, double revenge spot for the Packers after losing twice in 2020 to Tampa Bay. What have you heard here? A lot of people seem like on the Packers in this one.
Yes, absolutely. And definitely some sharp play on the Packers from a couple of different operations. There's a sharper guy here in Vegas that I try to talk to kind of once a week and just get his sentiments on the NFL each week. And he said, I got on Packers +3 right out of the gate. You're not getting +3 anywhere anymore. And mostly you're getting, if you want the Packers, you're getting +1, +1.5. So the value's kind of been sucked out of that. And then over at WinBet, they mentioned that they saw some play at +2 on the Packers. So, +3, +2. Now it's down to +1, +1.5, depending on where you shop. So definitely some sharp play on Green Bay in this money. I would expect the public's going to come back on Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, though. They're both public teams. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are going to be public. So this could be kind of a public versus public battle. But there was certainly some sharp play coming up, early to midweek on the road, the short road dog here.
What about Sunday night? We referenced it earlier, Patrick, that Niners-Broncos game. Denver opened up as a favorite. Niners flipped to a favorite. Jimmy G at quarterback. And the struggles Denver's had offensively. But are people buying too much into Jimmy Garoppolo now being the guy moving forward and Denver's struggles? Or is this right, you think?
Well, I heard you talking just before I came on. And I'm a Denver Broncos guy, but I'm a Denver Broncos guy with like all these bad premonitions about things that will happen to the Broncos, such as 55-10 Super Bowl losses and that sort of thing. So I generally try to stay away from them, but I'm with you on this. If you're going to give me points with Denver at home in primetime, I'm probably going to take them. I will say there was definitely some sharp play on the Niners early in the week that helped this line jump the fence in a hurry. I mean, from 2.5 Denver to 1.5 Niners, like on Monday, maybe Tuesday, depending on where you shop. Definitely some sharp play on the Niners in that instance. But I don't know. I think that might be just a little bit too much of a move here, making Denver a home dog. But also keep in mind, Denver is definitely dinged up a little bit. A couple of odds makers pointed that out, that the Denver's got some potential injury issues going into this game. So while the Niners lost their starting quarterback, people they upgraded to Jimmy G, or at least upgraded modestly in some sense. But Denver's a little little bit dinged up too, and that probably contributed to that line.
Now, finally, the Monday night game, the Cowboys and the Giants, and
You bet.
the Giants open up 3 4-point favorites down to 1 now. Dallas, they beat Cincinnati last week. Cooper Rush, once again, starting quarterback for the Cowboys. What about this move here where it looks like a lot of people jumping on Dallas?
Yeah, right. And again, part of it is probably the move, and part of it is probably kind of backing up to that the Denver game. A little bit of the Giants are nicked up a little bit on the defensive line. They're banged up. They got three players questionable, I believe, on the defensive line. Points per ticket count midweek at DraftKings, which I checked in on, was almost dead even. But 65% of early spread money was on the short dog and the short-handed Cowboys. Obviously, they're short. They don't have their quarterback. But they came out and got a win, an outright win against Cincinnati last week, which was a boon for the sports books and really tough for most people on our side of the counter. But, yeah, they're kind of liking the Cowboys even without Dak Prescott, and maybe feeling like the Cowboys are a little frisky, short underdog in prime time on the road on Monday night, which is certainly interesting.
And really quick, Patrick, before I let you go, a couple road favorites, Cincinnati, Buffalo, that it seems like the public will be on. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, Cincinnati, public definitely on Cincinnati early in the week. Not buying the Jets, even though the Jets, as much as they kind of maybe aren't buying the Browns tonight, they still aren't buying the Jets either with that comeback last week. Looking right now at really fresh numbers from DraftKings. Tickets 3-1 money beyond 6-1 on the Bengals on the spread to cover that number. And then the Bills, I don't know that you're going to get people off the Bills at all. I'm scrolling down to just scrolling through the numbers to find their game on here real quick. So I apologize, but they're certainly on Cincinnati, and I'm trying to find this Buffalo game. Hang on 1 second, and I'll tell you. Oh, there it is. It's right there at the top, which is why I scrolled right over it. Yeah, Buffalo's still really popular. That's intriguing, though. You know, Miami, that was a tremendous comeback against Baltimore on the road at Baltimore. But early tickets and money, 4-1 tickets, and probably about 7-1 early money on Buffalo, which looks like the machine that people expected they'd be right now.
Patrick Everson, he's live at the Cosmo in Las Vegas, doing a great job covering the betting scene. And Patrick, before we let you go, tell everyone where they can find more of your work going into the weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely over at VegasInsider.com. We've got a great NFL odds and action report that updates all weekend long. Same thing with college football. And for college football week 4 odds and action report updates all day long throughout the rest of this week and all day Saturday. So you can get updates all day long and see where things are going. And, of course, you having me on a couple of times a week, Monday and Thursday. I appreciate that. You can find me here on Kevin's show. And it's really great stuff. Love the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate it. At @PatrickE_Vegas. Find him on Twitter. Find all the info. You got to follow him if you care about this stuff because he's going to give you the numbers. He's going to tweet all that out at you. So, Patrick, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you again Monday. Cowboys and the Giants. We'll look forward to that matchup. Thank you.
Fantastic. Have a great weekend, Kevin.
All right, you too. That is Patrick Everson, and always a great job by Patrick taking care of business there on the ground floor, basically, in Las Vegas. All right. We're going to get to some of the props from BetMGM in just a moment, but want to tell you about the Vegas Insider app. And this is something, as I talk about, you got to follow Patrick. You got to do this. You've got to download this app because this app right now at Vegas Insider, there are so many different features on it that are so great. Up to date, easy to navigate odds for every major sport. Also, latest shows, best bet videos and podcasts, props, trends, futures, news, all the free Vegas Insider app. Download the Vegas Insider app right now on Apple or Android devices. Bet better with the Vegas Insider app. All right, let's take a look now at the some of the props for Steelers-Browns tonight and the latest odds, courtesy of BetMGM. Browns are laying 4.5 at home, total of 37.5. That was at 40.5, and it dropped to 37.5. And what else do we have here? First half numbers. Browns laying 3, laying 1.5. Steelers getting 3, minus 115 for the first half, total of 18.5, under 18.5, minus 120. First quarter at a half, Pittsburgh minus 140, Cleveland plus 110. So that's kind of interesting. And a total of 7 in the first quarter between these teams. Now let's look at the player props. And these should be really ugly considering the weather's going to be ugly. All right. It's funny how last week we had like 260s, 250, 220 on some of these, or actually on Monday night with some of the games. Jacoby Brissett, passing yards, 181.5. Mitchell Trubisky, passing yards, 194.5, shaded to the under of minus 130. All right. So not a lot of passing yards expected. Passing touchdowns, Brissett over a half, minus 275. Trubisky over a half, minus 275. But the one that's funniest of all of them, they have it on here? Oh. I did see earlier, but I can't find it now, the interception prop. That everyone was betting on Trubisky over on the interception prop. All right. Rushing yards, Kareem Hunt, 44.5, shaded to the under, minus 115. Nick Chubb, 84.5 for the Browns, minus 115 each way. Najee Harris, 56.5 for the Steelers, minus 115. For the quarterbacks, Mitchell Trubisky, 12.5. Jacoby Brissett, 13.5. Receiving yards, we'll see how this one goes tonight. Deontay Johnson, 54.5 for the Steelers. Let's see who else. Pat Freiermuth, their tight end at Pittsburgh, 34.5. Chase Claypool, 37.5. On the Cleveland side, Amari Cooper, 45.5. David Njoku, 24.5. The rookie George Pickens for the Steelers, 27.5. Najee Harris, 18.5. Kareem Hunt, 16.5. Nick Chubb, 7.5 on the receiving yards. Kicking props, always interesting. Cade York of the Browns, the rookie, 6.5, under 4 or under 145. Chris Boswell for the Steelers, 5.5, under 120. Or the under 5.5, minus 120. Excuse me. Let's see, player TDs. First touchdown, Nick Chubb plus 450. Kareem Hunt 7-1. Najee Harris plus 750. Deontay Johnson and Amari Cooper 9-1. Freiermuth 12-1. Anytime touchdown for Nick Chubb, minus 190. Kareem Hunt, anytime touchdown, minus 115. Najee Harris, anytime touchdown, plus 110. So a lot of props tonight for this Browns-Steelers game. Hopefully the weather somewhat stays in tune. And really quick, for the college games this evening, in which we have two of them, you have West Virginia and Virginia Tech. Let me get that one, the latest lines there. West Virginia laying 2.5, total of 50 at Virginia Tech. Coastal Carolina and Georgia State, the Chanticleers laying 2.5, total of 63.5. And the extra games tonight, in case you're curious, Illinois laying 21 to Chattanooga, total of 44.5. In Major League Baseball, on the Thursday card, the games that have gone final, Giants sweep the Rockies. They win 3-0. Rangers over the Angels 5-3. The Royals sweep the Twins 4-1. Seattle leads at Oakland 8-5, top of the 8th inning. Cardinals have rallied back. They couldn't score a run for ages. They're up 5-3 on the Padres. The Pirates and the Cubs in a rain delay. Brewers, Reds starting up in a little bit. Milwaukee laying 160. Braves laying 140 at the Phillies. Dodgers laying $2.10 against the Diamondbacks. Blue Jays laying 120 against Tampa Bay. Astros a 190 favorite with Justin Verlander tonight at Baltimore. Red Sox and Yankees, Aaron Judge going for 61. Yankees laying 145. And the Guardians and the White Sox in Chicago, Shane Bieber on the mound. Cleveland laying 145 there on the road. So that's the look at tonight in Major League Baseball. All right, Mike, thanks to Joe Osborne and Patrick Everson for joining us. Tomorrow, Joe Madden will be back on at 6 p.m. to get you into the weekend. So tune into that, down to the wire, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Vegas Insider. Also, Chasing That Paper with Joe Osborne, 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow to wrap up the week. My thanks to Spencer Ray, always doing a great job running the show. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.